Good morning, Ratman. I'm your host, Cursed Che, and joining me is Blurst Corgi. I
Yes.
should change that. No. I wrote some really good jokes, and I don't really get to use them anymore. Anyway, today's episode is brought to you by Today's
By
episode is brought to you by rats. Sorry we're late. We might not be late, and just if we aren't late, keep in mind I worked my ass off on a day that I really should have taken off to get this out on time.
Sounds like you.
Yeah, if this comes out on time, I tortured myself to get this out on time. But if it's not out on time, sorry about that. It wasn't a production issue, just someone, not naming names, don't want to throw anyone particularly on the bus, decided to give themselves food poisoning. Once again, I'm not going to say who it was because these things happen and I don't want anyone to blame that person. I don't blame that person because it wasn't me. These things happen.
In that person's defense, not naming who, they probably had to rest up after a nasty burger and then decided, hey, I'm going to play Breath of the Wild, and then spent like 12 hours playing it. But on the bright side, they beat Ganon.
I would also like to point out that this is an episode on the Cursed Founding. Someone got food poisoning before the episode of the Cursed Founding. And then we were about to start recording and Corgi's internet crashed. Cool. Apparently the Cursed Founding is real and it's hitting us. I look forward to this episode never coming out because I die in a car accident the day before I finish the editing. Or the hour before I finish the editing. It'll be great.
Yeah, it seems that car accidents happen a lot to writers.
Actually,
like
no,
Stephen
on top
King.
of that. So, Cursed Founding, I had things to do today, and there was a nail in my tire. And I had to pull over at a gun range and wait for the RACQ to show up to swap my tire, because apparently my car only has half the equipment to change a spare tire. I had a tire, I had a jack, I didn't have the thingy to lift a jack, and I didn't have a tire iron, so I couldn't change my tire. I had to call roadside assistance. It's been a fucking mess. We could record this earlier because I was down a tire and I was late to my thing, so I ended up getting home at like 5 o'clock, and then Corgi had someone had food poisoning, and then Corgi's internet died.
So, moral of the story is, if one or both of us ends up dead, let this be a warning to all other podcasters who want to cover the 21st Founding.
Yeah.
Stay away.
I looked at like other podcasters who have done it, and it's been like, other YouTubers. Because I found some information and I'm like, ooh, I've never heard anyone talk about this. And I was like, who has talked about the 21st Founding? And it's like, oh, 2 people. Okay. Oh, apparently no one has, and don't. That's my advice. Don't.
It is our educated assessment that don't. Anyway, 21st Founding.
So, anyway, before we start, Corgi.
Oh boy.
I got a fucking problem with you, and I'm going to put you on blast. I was editing the last episode, and I noticed that you said ass. What country are you from? Fucking traitor. It's almost as bad as the time when you were staying with us for what was supposed to be a week and ended up being a month.
3 weeks.
That's close enough to a month. But you asked me if I needed to get gas for my car, and I damn near threw you out of my house and ended our friendship. Fucking gas. Honestly, gas? Really? Petrol. Fuck off.
Gas, grass, or ass.
Anyway, 2 unrelated things. I painted a Seraphon model the other day for no reason. I just felt like it. I told Corgi that I felt like it. And then like a week later, I actually did it. And I will send that to you, to Corgi. I reckon it came out well. The photo isn't great because I don't have a setup for model photography. Interesting. I actually know how to do model photography because I studied photography, because I'm an idiot who went to tertiary education and went, I'm a learn how to do art. Don't do that. Word of advice from someone who did it. Art is subjective, and your teachers will not agree with you on how to make art. And you will lose marks because they go, it's not exactly how I wanted it to turn out. And you go, fuck you, it's a good photo. Get fucked.
And also, art is horrifying and painful to the heart. Trust me, I hate my art all the time. But I'm honestly glad to do this podcast where I can get the praise.
Oh, I love my photography. I'm a really solid photographer. But in cool news in my life, I saw my first ever wild koala, and by wild I mean right next to a shopping mall in suburbia. I have been looking at every tree next to like warning koala signs for like 10 years. And like I have seen wild deer and wild foxes, two animals that are not native to this country, and I saw them before I saw a koala. Devils and platypus are the only two other notable Australian animals that I have not seen wild. I've seen kangaroo, I've seen wallabies, I've seen emus, technically not native, but I've seen dingoes, I've seen a wombat.
Oh, wombats.
Yeah. It almost got hit by a bus. I almost didn't see a wombat. I saw a wombat sprint across the road in the middle of rural Tasmania, opium capital of the world.
That tracks.
I think it's something like 40% of the world's legal opium comes from Tasmania. I like telling everyone this fact because it's fucking hilarious. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, hey Che, wasn't this episode supposed to be part 2 of the Gene Stealer cults? What happened? You didn't perchance see a post on Reddit about how the Lamenters save civilizations and then go, I should do a Lamenters video, and then decide to start writing a Lamenters video, ignoring the fact that this is the first Space Marine Legion video, and also that you have to explain the cursed founding because you just wanted to talk about how cool the Lamenters are. You didn't possibly do that, did you? No, I did not. And you might be thinking, hey Che, but the title says that this is about the cursed founding. Why are you talking about doing a video on the Lamenters? I ran out of time. Changing the video idea at the last minute will do that. And also, I didn't actually run out of time. Like I did. And then someone, not me, won't say who, got food poisoning. And then I had time to touch up the script.
Well, I'm sure that person is very sorry, and also fuck you. They can't control how their body reacts.
But I was going to do a small talk on the cursed founding because, like, there's not too much about it, and instead of just regurgitating the tiny amount of the wiki, I just read the source, and there's a lot, and I just started writing pages because it was really interesting, and I never heard any of this before. Kind of like how there's a really bad habit of lore tubers using the wiki as their only or primary source, which, like, I get. I will probably have to do the same for the Lamenters because their sources are fucking scattered. But the point is, I ran low on time, kind of, not really. And there was so much about the cursed founding. Like, this might be the longest script that I've done. Usually my scripts are on the spectrum of 4,700 words. This is currently 5,300 words. And I just decided to transfer this over, and the next episode will be about the Lamenters. Or SCP if Corgi finishes her SCP video on time, but I'm going to assume that the answer is no because I don't think she started writing it yet.
I was supposed to?
Yeah.
Shit.
Anyway. Groundwork. Now, this is pretty standard groundwork. Most people know this. The Codex Astartes mandated that there can only be 1,000 Space Marines in any given chapter. Asterisk. Hey, how many Black Templars are there? Why don't you shut the fuck up and mind your own damn business? That's how many Black Templars there are. Shut up. Now.
I hate it when a codex starts yelling at me and calling me names. It's happened 3 times now.
Also, apparently the Space Wolves aren't Codex compliant, and they're just like, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. What are you going to do about it? They're Space Wolves.
They're not too far out of Codex compliancy. It seems like they're more on the spectrum of 1,200. But
they're Space Wolves, just deal with it.
Yeah. Whereas the Black Templars are, how many are there? Shut the fuck up. We don't answer to you. Because there's a little asterisk in the Codex Astartes that says, if you're at a crusade, you can just keep making Space Marines because surely they'll die during the crusade. And then we went, what if we just never stop crusading? Fuck you. We can have as many as we want.
What is this, Spain?
Yeah.
That's the only crusade I know.
Spain, quite famously, didn't have a crusade. Well, they had the Reconquista, which was sort of a crusade, but if you're talking about the general concept of a the entire
Inquisition.
Christendom coming together to invade a place, quite famously, never did that in Spain. At least I don't think they did that in Spain. They did it in the Holy Land a bunch of times, and then the Byzantine Empire once for shits and gigs.
Jesus.
That was the fault of the Venetians. Enter the foundings. The second founding, when all 9 of the Loyalist legions reverse decimated themselves, decimating being 1 in 10, and they got 9 out of 10. Fun fact, if anyone uses decimation to they decimated a city, they're using it incorrectly. And
So what doesn't mean to halve?
1 in 10.
Oh. Well,
If you have 100 people and that got decimated, 10 people died. Hence the deaths in decimated.
deaths is 10.
10.
Right, yeah.
1 in 10.
Oh. I just think deaths in decimal.
So, they reverse decimated themselves, reducing their population from 10,000 each to 1,000 each. And the remaining 9,000 was split into 9 successor chapters. This way, a heresy, in theory, was harder to pull off to the same scale that they had prior. It could, however, be pulled off to some degree.
Life finds a way.
Take note of this. This will be on the test.
Fuck. What? Oh.
Now, fast
9.
forward till you get to the 21st founding. If you're wondering why they keep doing foundings, it's so that they can have more space marines. And occasionally, chapters get destroyed. So occasionally, you actually do need more space marines, and not just because I want more space marines.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. If you throw away your dinner, you can always have dessert. Don't do that.
Yeah. You ever notice how I'm over-reliant on the word now in transitions between paragraphs? Now, for those unfamiliar with a gene seed and Corgi,
Gene seed.
yeah, it is a thing that they put into people, and it fucks with their DNA and makes them into space marines. On a more technical level, it helps change the body so that the organs that they implant don't kill them. It's also a limited resource, so they implant an organ into the space marines called a progenoid.
Gesundheit?
Progenoid. Progenoid. Let's just go with progenoid. Gland. And that grows new gene seed that can be harvested, usually 2 per space marine. They chuck 2 of the glands in there, one in the back chest cavity and one in their neck. And there's nothing stopping them, I don't think, from replanting them into space marines, so you can just grow a bunch per space marine. And they try and, when they lose, they try and get the gene seed back from the corpses. It's kind of an important thing. There's, as I said, it's a limited resource.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, God forbid they have hobbies. I mean, good for them. They're getting into gardening.
Now, the 21st founding is also known as the Do You Remember It from the beginning of the video, or did you write it down in your notes, Corgi?
The Cursed Space Marines?
No.
The Cursed Founding.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Yeah, I just like calling them the Cursed Space Marines.
Yeah. Now, the Cursed Founding was the largest founding since the second founding, and the AdMech behind the founding is generally believed to have done a little tampering and fucked around with the gene seed used in the founding. I do not know why. I do know why, kind of. I got a theory. We'll get to that. But it shouldn't have been because they thought they could improve it. That'd make them a heretic. But the Thorian Inquisitors were involved to some degree, maybe. We'll talk about that at the end. That gets into the sort of theory crafting of this episode. Theory crafting with a decent chunk of evidence. The Thorians are a branch of Inquisitors that want to resurrect the Emperor and think that you can transfer the Emperor's soul into a new body, which, yeah, kinda...
He's not even dead.
His soul is separate from his body in the warp.
Yeah, and he's happy that way.
But
God forbid men have hobbies.
That's the thing. He does possess that girl that one time.
Well, we've all possessed a girl once or twice.
So, I got some information on this. And this is why this video sort of ballooned out from what was supposed to be. This is the extent I talked about the first founding to let's get into the first founding. And I had to do a deep dive for this one. I had to read a White Dwarf from 2001. That's how far back we're going timeline wise.
Wait, what specific month in 2001?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I have it written down because we get into some timeline things. Because there's some stuff that happens and I need to explain how timelines work.
Only because that means that this whole concept is older than me.
Yeah. I mean,
it's older than us all.
It might have happened before you were born. It was I think it was August.
Oh, yeah, then I was born by then. March.
Yeah. Anyway, so the story here is that in the modern Imperium, that being modern of 2001 and not 2024.
We're so old.
Yeah. In 998 and 41, this is 41st millennium, the AdMech, alongside Brother Laquara, probably a space marine. I don't think anyone else goes by Brother. Also,
Brother!
at one point they ignore him and state it outweighs the petty considerations of Adeptus Terra, but the Astartes are kind of part of Adeptus Terra, but you would think that they would specify Astartes, but maybe things were different in 2001. Space Marine portrayal was definitely different back then. I have a lot of questions about Brother Laquara without any answers being provided towards me. I don't know if he's a Space Marine or not, and it wildly changes how this story plays out if he is a Space Marine. But he is possibly just a member of the Inquisitors, and they call people brothers, or he's a Space Marine, because the Space Marine do in fact call people brothers. I don't know. So, they went on an expedition to a dead world really close to Terra, that being Earth. Yep. Called Incunabula. Incunabula. Let's go with that.
Incunabula.
It's like you start to say incubated and then you just go nabla at the end. So Incunabula. During their expedition, the AdMech couldn't find anything. And their devices couldn't find anything. But Laquara kept insisting they are in fact on the right path. I bring this next part up because it's kind of weird later on. But Laquara had a lot of sway with the Department Munitorum and had a lot of funding and supplies for this expedition.
Department Munitorum?
Yeah, the Department of Munitions, the people who hand out supplies. Which,
yeah, I just wanted to reiterate
if he was a Space Marine, why would he have sway? He would be a Space Marine and go, I want this thing. And they go, okay, you're literally a Space Marine, we're not going to argue with you. But if he actually needs sway to get that, it implies he's not a Space Marine. Which makes me think he might be an Inquisitor. Once again, we talk about this at the end. Keep in mind, this guy might be an Inquisitor.
What's confusing me the most is the gene seed. I can't stop thinking of like that because wasn't that mentioned in the last episode about the gene steal cults?
Yes, the gene seed gives them some degree of immunity against the gene stealer cults.
Oh, okay. I thought you... I don't know if you cut it out or not, but I thought it was the part where we were talking about how the gene stealers can inject something.
That's the gene stealer's kiss.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
It's not a seed, it's just a...
Maybe that we didn't talk about it in the gene seed. We definitely have... I mentioned gene seed in passing, but the Space Marines are immune to some degree to the gene stealer's kiss.
Good for them.
It can infect them, but they are immune to the psychic effects of it. At one point in time, Laquara activated a device the AdMech had never seen before that calmed the machine spirits in the AdMech suits, and when the AdMech tried to look at it, he hid it from them.
No, just mine.
Now, later on, he started talking to the device, and then he talked to it, and the rocks they were next to shifted and blurred, and then turned into doors.
Okay, here's my theory. Is he, like, suited up?
It never explains, like, because they're like, oh, the AdMech are in environmental suits. It never explains what suit he's in. Does he not need an environmental suit because he's a Space Marine? Or is he also in an environmental suit? I don't fucking know. Explain who this man... Granted, I was reading a lot of this at, like, midnight. So maybe they do say it, and I missed it. But I reread, like, everything about him, like, 5 times to be like, have I missed this? But maybe I did miss it.
Here's my theory. He's just a Skaven in a trench coat.
Maybe. But it took them a hot minute to get through the doors. But once they did, they found a lab that contained 6 tubes and 3 bodies. They were clearly Space Marines, but all much larger than regular Space Marines. 2 of the tubes, however, were damaged, and 1 still functioned. So they autopsied the 2 dead bodies. Now, the bodies were discovered to have died less than an hour prior to the autopsy. Keep in mind, they were found in a long-abandoned lab that might have been last used thousands of years ago.
Damn, so just as they get rescued, they cock it?
Yeah, I forgot to say when the first founding was. So I do 21st founding. Sorry, I do say it later. It's M35 or 34. No, 35. So 6,000 years prior. So this was possibly used last 6,000 years prior. Yet they died an hour before they got there.
That's suspicious.
Yep.
Almost as if they were murdered.
And
That's Corgi
yeah,
for murdered.
and genetically speaking, their DNA and biology matched a baby who was less than a year old.
Damn, he was growing people.
Yep, their amino acids and enzyme chains had still not formed. Now, I don't know what that means. I didn't do well in biology.
Basically, their building blocks weren't properly made. It's
Did you do well in biology? Is this a Corgi lore drop?
Okay, I did biology in high school, and when I failed my uni, mainly because I just kept forgetting. I have a horrible track of time. But yeah, amino acids and point is, that's basically the building blocks.
I wasn't good at biology, and I wasn't good at the part of science that required maths. So they were like, space, this is cool. And I'm like, that is cool. And then they're just like, and here's the rotational speed of a planet and the gravitational forces acted on. And they're like, you've lost me. You introduced numbers. You shouldn't have introduced numbers.
Just basically, they're clay pots that haven't been put in the furnace long enough yet.
Oh, cool. I have a question for biology people later. Maybe you can answer this. So they also just had extra organs, and not the extra organs Space Marines have. The guy looking at them knew what Space Marine organs were and just went, I don't know what these are or what they're for. They also had weird brains, and when the brains were removed from the body for investigation, they quickly turned into grey goop. In general, the guy just had no idea how they died, or really what they were. He was utterly certain, his words not mine, that these guys were just superior to Space Marines in every single way.
Ooh. So what's your question?
Oh, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Oh, you said it as if you were about to say it.
No.
Bitch.
Now we get to some of the base logs the AdMech discovered. Now, these aren't given a date, but the prior events happened in M41 and the Curse founding happened in M35. So 6,000 years prior, but exactly when these happened, who knows? These are like... these are like stylistically scattered and missing words. So there's going to be a bit of somethings and I don't knows added to these. So the base was part of Project Homo Sapiens Novus. And they thought with the next few accelerated evolutionary iterations, they might achieve something with the goal of recreating the I don't know and imbuing them with the psychically attuned minds to resist the something of chaos. And I'm just going to read this quote exactly. That we may follow in the footsteps of our glorious emperor fills me with pride, and that my name may be spoken of it in the same breath is an honor I scarce believe. And they sent out their brand new chapter, some little guys known as the Flame Falcon.
That's a fucking cool ass thing.
Yep, send them on their way. Their brand new homeworld of Lathe, and nothing goes wrong with them. They don't say, just off the top of my head, just coming up with stray ideas, randomly spontaneously combust into a ball of fire that doesn't burn them, and were subsequently declared excommunicate traitors and purged by the Grey Knights. That definitely didn't happen. Didn't happen, Corgi. Definitely didn't happen.
My brain broke. I was like, okay, it didn't happen. Then why are you telling it? And then I realized it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. That never happened. Don't worry about
There's
it.
no proof.
The Flame Falcon's never caught fire. That never happened.
No way. Don't talk stupid. That's my job. I say that as a joke, but it's so not.
Yeah. So, they were looking through their gene storage and discovered a dark, viscous liquid running from a stasis vessel. So they opened it up to find the vessel was overflowing with a stinking organic substance that was growing larger.
God damn it, David!
So, the solid Prometheus reference there. Everyone's favorite movie, Prometheus. Anyway, they found the Prometheus goo, the black goo, and they did the only natural thing.
Don't lick it. They didn't lick it. Please tell me they didn't lick it.
No. Do you want to take another guess?
No, they didn't. They did not violate the first fucking rule of quarantine. When interacting with foreign materia, use all precautions because you don't know how it will react.
Yeah.
They touched it.
Nope. They did the only natural thing and sent in the incinerator units and destroyed this something gene stock.
Oh my god, thank god they're smart.
They went, what the fuck is this black goo? I don't know, just burn it. Burn the whole fucking thing to the ground.
I remember the old Terran movie. I'm not fucking risking that. I mean, honestly, can't fault them. I'd do the same fucking thing. Mysterious black goo that seems to be growing. No, I've seen the blob. Nee.
I'd lick it.
Che, and since when did I become the smart one?
It's clearly evolved in accelerated evolution. I will become something. Maybe I'll spontaneously combust, but, you know, that never happened, so maybe I won't.
No, you will definitely spontaneously combust. There will be no record of the incinerator used on you. I'll make sure of it.
They don't know why this happened, as it was placed under the proper blessings and rituals. Which, just to throw my hat in the ring, might be why ritual wizardry does not control machines. Sure, you might be able to cast a fireball, but the process of casting a fireball doesn't stop the small metal object moving at 700 meters per second. The point is, something stasis field failed, or the genetic, I don't know, corrupted, before it was placed in storage, and they have no explanation for it. I have a few, they don't though.
Sorry, I just imagine, like, after they've, like, say they succeeded in burning it, which they didn't, obviously. I just imagine them pulling out a holy seal, like the purity seal, and just, you have been blessed, like right on the ashes.
Anyway, so they get a little heads up from the Black Dragons, from the apothecaries of the Black Dragons.
The Black Dragons.
Yep. Letting the founders know of some weird irregularities in the zygote development of their firstborns. Now, that's firstborns being Space Marines is the term for Space Marines is firstborns, and then there's Primaris. It's a thing. We'll get into it someday. Now, not like the firstborn children. They're creating like little babies that will grow up into Space Marines. That's not how Space Marines work.
Firstborn isn't superior.
Yeah, Space Marines are by design infertile.
Good.
Now, here's an aside. As I said, not a big biology person, so I looked up zygotes, and it's a fertilized egg cell.
Yeah. It's literally just tree life.
So that confused me. So I looked up the Black Dragons on the Lexiconum to see if they'll like updated this to something that makes sense. And no, it's still zygote, but it was a link that links to gene seed, but seemingly the gene seed develops zygotes. I don't fucking know. If someone more scientifically inclined can sound off in the comments and explain that one, please do. Fucking developing baby material that develop into adult human. What?
Yeah, sped up.
It's also it's also something to do with the bones. So these osmodular zygotes are supposed to increase bone density and length. Something to do with the bones.
Just sounds like IVF with a little bit of CRISPR being used.
Yeah. Like a baby, mush it,
edit its genes,
throw it into your bones.
Hmm.
I too smear babies on my bones to grow strong.
Is that why I weren't allowed to do the hospital? Please don't rub babies on your bones.
But seemingly, however, in the Black Dragon, the Osmodula are more developed than any other Space Marine, giving them bone claws and horns, and sometimes they just grow a lot of bone and become fucking giants, and are well more than 3 meters tall. You can tell that I wrote this really late at night because I'm starting to use incoherent sentences like well more than 3 meters tall. That's not correct grammar.
Don't worry, I'm writing osmodular equals Space Wolverine.
Average Space Marine height being 2.5 meters tall. Once again, these guys are 3 meters tall. That's big. Don't ask me how big that is in feet. I didn't. Fuck you. Usually I kind of do the conversion because we also kind of use feet for height in Australia. I actually don't know how tall I am in meters and centimeters. I know how tall I am in feet. But they just used meters because they're British. And I went, look, I know how tall 3 meters is, and I know how tall 2.5 meters is. Because I know how tall 50 centimeters is.
Yeah, just door frame.
Yeah. And I know how tall 2 meters is. I can math it out. Now, here's some stuff I'm going to need you to bear with me, Corey. before you
I
start any
usually do.
questions, because you already started, you fuck. So before you start any questions, because I need to explain some real world timeline stuff. The dragon claws, what?
Did you ever stuck?
Oh yeah, so the dragon claws, which are the bone claws, which are more spikes, like just a singular spike coming out of them.
Mm-hmm.
They are called claws, despite being more spikes. And they can retract those bone claws and make their claws a better weapon. They will sharpen them into pointed edges and then coat them in adamantium. And I need you to shut the fuck up for a moment. Now, here's the thing. Some of you might be thinking, Corgi, oh, like Wolverine? And this is where I get to dive into my other hobby.
Comics!
No, actually, see, Wolverine's claws were first an accident in the adamantium bonding process, and then a weapon grafted into his body. And then, quite famously, in 1993, in Fatal Attractions, which we were actually talking before we started recording, because we were talking about Onslaught, and Onslaught is created because of Fatal Attractions. So, Magneto, who, as an aside, Corgi recently found out his real name was Max, and it kind of broke her for a moment.
It's so stupid.
He ripped Logan's adamantium from his body. Logan's healing factor, which was crippled, keeping him alive from the adamantium poison, all of a sudden went into overdrive and started fucking with him. And one of the ways it did was by compensating for his lack of claws by regenerating bone claws. He also went feral and lost his nose for a bit. It was a thing, and we don't talk about it, and because it was a thing in a bad way. But it wasn't until Origin number 2, or The Origin, or Wolverine The Origin, released in October 3rd, 2001.
Which I used to constantly watch. Sorry, I just wanted to be included.
It's a comic book.
No, I'm talking about the movie.
Are you talking about Wolverine Origins, the movie, which doesn't adapt, well, it partially adapts Wolverine The Origin, but it's a very different comic book?
You weren't.
Anyway. So it wasn't until Origin number 2, which was released in October 3rd, 2001, was it retconned that Wolverine always had bone claws. I couldn't find when the Black Dragons were created, though the book I am reading was from August 2001. The earliest mention of them I could find was from June 2000, though Wolverine did get his bones recoded again in October 27th, 1999. But it does mean that the Black Dragons having natural bone claws that were coated in adamantium actually predates Wolverine. And possibly, if they predate 1999, prior to Wolverine having his bone claws coated in adamantium completely. They might have done Wolverine before Wolverine did Wolverine.
Oh, hell yeah. Wait, so adamantium was made by them, not by Marvel?
No, so adamantium is a thing that's just been in fiction for ages. It's not a Marvel-owned property. So
okay.
Adamantium pops up in a lot of things outside of Marvel.
Okay.
But the Black Dragons coat their bone claws in adamantium. Them having bone claws as a natural part of their body predates Wolverine having bone claws as a natural part of their body. Possibly predating their Wolverine having his bone claws coated in adamantium as a concept entirely if they're prior to 1999. Prior to October 1999. But Wolverine at this point had bone claws, but his bone claws were a side effect of his regeneration process and not part of his initial power set.
Oh, so it was just a rogue mutation that sort of just became synonymous with him.
Yeah, so it was because he had metal claws for so long that his regeneration process was just like, gotta regenerate claws. So he regenerates claws into his body, rather than, what it was eventually retconned of. Wolverine didn't know he had claws and then learned, oh, I had bone claws the entire time, despite the fact multiple people up until this point had told him specifically, word for word, we put those in your body.
It's sort of like, getting a piercing removed and then all of a sudden your body just regrows that piercing but bone.
Yeah. Anyway. They also have bone horns. That being like a singular horn, not multiple, but there's nothing that noted that prevents them from having multiple horns. So looking into this, they then reviewed the purity procedure and destroyed any deficient zygotes, but the black dragons still have their unstable gene seed and still exist. So you can, Corgi, play black dragons with their stabby claws.
Hell yeah. I've just edited Osmodular equals Space Wolverine to Osmodular equals Space Wolverine and unicorns.
Yeah, they're closer to Marrow, who is the leader of the Morlocks, or was the leader of Morlocks at some point, than Wolverine. Marrow has just like, her mutation is extreme bone growth and she has spiky bones.
Oh yeah, I think I saw her in one of the movies.
Yeah, I think they use her in one.
It was a weird one.
Movies. Yeah. Now, they eventually started getting reports daily about the constant mutations of the gene seeds coming from the facility. And by this point, they started to get worried. If people started putting things together that the mutations were all coming from this lab in particular, maybe they might have been doing something off the books, experiments with gene seeds that they aren't specifically supposed to be doing.
Heretics.
Yep. They were ensured by their inquisitorial sponsor, a guy by the name of Inquisitor Crusher.
Why does that sound familiar?
That they do, in fact, have the Emperor's blessing. With more and more reports of the mutation, they couldn't help but feel a terrible mistake. They then asked to halt the program till they did more research to figure out what was going wrong. And the Inquisitor said, "If you do that, I'll fucking kill you." And so the program continued.
Damn, dude is reminding me of a certain book.
Are you talking about the
Dave Ascension, yeah.
Yeah, Dave Ascension. So the science man, don't know if they're a regular dude or an admech, the guy who's writing all the journal entries, squirreled away 6 test subjects that Kresher didn't know about to monitor their development more closely. Something subjects I don't know beyond normal parameters, so they could observe any mutations that otherwise wouldn't come about while they were on Incunabla, which is the planet they are on. Anyway, so here's a quote. "Perhaps then we will be able to discover the cause of such mutations and rectify the problem before we create more of these cursed. How many are already left in Kilaba? I don't know. Only Kresha may communicate with the other facilities on the planet. I fear that we may be too late to these abominations, this damn world." If you're wondering why the end of the sentence is kind of weird, is because, as I said, there's a lot of blank spaces, which is why I'm randomly saying something and...
It's like redactions.
Yeah, it's not redactions, it's a corrupted data log. So they weren't able to restore it completely. Well, the redaction is intentional data that you're keeping away. This is, you could only partially restore the log. This had the full information, but it was only able to be partially restored. But that's why I say some things that I don't know. So if you're wondering why some of the sentence structure is weird, it's because I'm filling in the spaces with something and I don't know. It was really funny when it was like midnight and I'm like, this will be fucking hilarious. And now I'm reading it out. It doesn't come out as good as it was in my head at midnight.
Yeah, it just sounds like it genuinely comes from them. That does make sense.
However, eventually, Kresha found out about the secret guys, and during an unarmed combat training, 2 of the test subjects, something berserk, I don't know, killed 30 of the others, something, and then collapsed in a pile of mad thrashing limbs, as their bodies went, I don't know, uncontrolled mutation.
That's very Thing-esque. I love it.
At this point, the guys started to feel bad.
The guy, as in the brother?
Yeah. No, not the brother. The brother's not here yet. This is 6,000 years before the brother.
Oh.
Maybe Space Marines live a long time if this is a Space Marine. But at this point, the guy started to feel bad. These things had barely any humanity left, and the idea of that entire chapters of Space Marines were currently going through that filled him with dread and shame. Kresha ordered the bodies burned before they could investigate what exactly went wrong, and fired the guy as the head of the facility. He pleaded for mercy on his soul from the Emperor, and something created monsters here. And while he couldn't do anything about the chapters that already existed, I don't know, destroy most of the knowledge they had stored. And while he was locked out of the systems, he did what he could, and when Kresha finds out something, I don't know, kill him. Something he very much welcomed. That was an actual, like, something rather than, like, inserting something. He wanted to die. He didn't feel good about what he did. So, now, some stuff happens. The 3rd subject seems to have stabilized, Baller, and they thought, awesome, we salvaged this project. So they removed him from his tube and gave him combat training. And after he was trained, astropaths in orbit on the Eternity, a spaceship. I thought of a great segment. It was one of the things that, like, you know, when you go to sleep and you wake up and you're just like, I have the greatest idea, and then you write it down, and then you wake up the next day and you look at your note and you're like, this is the dumbest fucking thing I ever seen.
Yeah.
This was an idea where I'm like, this is brilliant. It's so stupid. It is so clearly a sleep-addled idea, but it's a segment called "Whose Ship Is This Ship?" We're not going to use it here because I don't have a picture of the ship. But whenever I bring up a spaceship or a ship, I'm going to send you the picture of the ship and go, "Whose ship is this ship?" And you have to guess who owns that ship.
Yeah, what do I get if I do it correctly?
Nothing.
Damn, it's just like real life. My talents are wasted.
So stay tuned for inevitably, "Whose ship is this ship?" The hit new segment. It will be a hit. Now.
And if it's not, I will hit. So,
astropaths in orbit on the Eternity, unsanctioned psychic signals originating from their facility. Now, Kresha figured it out and detained and tortured and possibly killed the astropath of the base. However, she was not the person sending out the messages.
Who was? Was it the thing that just got taught?
Got caught.
Got taught, like combat training.
Oh, right. We'll get to that. So,
Ooh.
While they were trying real hard to figure out, all of a sudden, the Voxcaster lines from the Eternity started sending out garbled messages and confused screaming. Don't you love it when you answer the phone and it's just confused screaming?
Yes, all no times that has happened.
Yeah. Hello, this is Che. Ah! Great. I love it when that happens. Quite frequently, I answer the phone and it's just someone yelling at me in Chinese.
That's just because you live in Queensland.
No, that's just because there's a lot of fucking Chinese spam calls. And they're trying to get people who don't understand the country very well or understand the state of the Chinese government. And they're like, you have run into problems with the Chinese consulate. Press 2 for Chinese thing. Like Chinese voice message. And then they go, we have stolen your family. Pay us money. And then people get scammed. And usually the phone filters it out, but some of them will automatically go into my voicemail. So someone will call me and then I'll get like a phone message.
Left you a voice message.
And like I'll listen to the phone message. This is actually like business important phone message. And then I'll go, next recording. Press 2 for Chinese options. You have run into problems with the Chinese consulate. It's like, cool, thanks. I definitely haven't.
And that is exactly why I never answer my phone, among other things.
I also just don't answer my phone. Except when, like... Well, I get a lot of, like, work calls, so sometimes I do have to answer the phone from, like, random numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's work-related.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I have to, like, answer the phone to random numbers. It's great. And then sometimes it's, like, random number, it's like, you have run into problems with China. I'm like, I haven't! Fucking leave me alone! I'm not Chinese! I don't know the Chinese government. My family doesn't live in China! Stop calling me!
I don't even know where China is. That's a joke.
Anyway, so after they got the confused screaming and information that they answer the phone call and it's like, you've run into problems with the Chinese consulate. And I'm like, fuck! I didn't know China still existed. They then got a broadcast that was broadcast planet-wide across all their comms devices, and the view screen displayed an unknown man. A man of the most loathsome, I don't know, the guy had ever seen. He knew because of his build, he must be a fragment destroyed, but his armor was covered in symbols that made his eyes sting just to look at. And on his shoulders, he had a device with mechanical limbs, each ending in a weapon or torture device. Now, this man is unnamed. Now,
Elon Musk.
When I first read this, I misread a line and thought the device was over his shoulders as in behind him, and he had some weird torture device, and not over his shoulders as in on him.
Ah.
So I thought he might have been a Dark Elder. Now, we don't know who this man is. He could be anyone at all. But he sure does sound and look like, say it with me, class, Fabius Bile. Now, Corgi.
A what?
Fabius will get his own episode. All you need to know right now is that he is a Chaos Space Marine. He really likes making Space Marines and figuring out how to make Space Marines. He's balding, wears a dope coat made of human skin, and has a pimp cane.
God forbid men have hobbies.
There is a model of Fabius Bile.
Would.
Yeah, the 8-foot man with a pimp cane and human skin coat.
Hey man, in an economy like that, you gotta get fabric where you can get it. That being said, he does look like Dr. Satan met fucking Lucius Malfoy.
Okay. I don't know.
Dr. Satan!
I know who one of those people are.
Dr. Satan! You need to watch House of a Thousand Corpses.
I really don't.
Yeah, I don't think you'd like it.
No, it's fucking Rob Zombie. I don't give a shit about Rob Zombie. I like his cover of Blitzkrieg Bop. That's it.
Not even Dracula?
That is the beginning and ending of my experience with Rob Zombie, and I don't care to listen to any more of them. I have listened to other Rob Zombie songs. Not a big fan. I do like how he just really likes his wife, though. That's nice. Guy's like 80 years old, and he clearly just wants to fuck his wife.
Yeah, that's why she's always topless and everything.
Yeah.
Which, good for her.
Now, totally not Fabius Bile, sent down drop pods, and our, I'm pretty sure, unnamed geneticist. I don't think he's an AdMech. He talks about the Emperor a lot, and never the Omnissiah, or Machine God, or Machine Spirits, though he did talk about the Litany of Purity, and rituals and blessings for stasis tubes. So, I don't know. He went, oh fuck, the test subjects, gotta kill the test subjects! And as soon as he came up with this idea, the third test subject kicked the door down and entered the command center. And figure something view screen smiled, quote, as though welcoming a long-lost son. And our unnamed geneticist realized where the unknown psychic I don't know came from.
I was right!
Yeah. The third subject immediately killed Kresher, and our point of view character fucking legged it. And,
well, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. And I'm just going to read the final page verbatim. For a day and a night, I have hidden here. Screams of my people as the invaders hunted them down and violated their bodies has left me shaking with a terror I cannot quell. It is clear to me now that Project Homo Sapiens Novus, doomed from the start. I have sealed off the hidden laboratorium and pray that the abominations within never see the light of day. What we did here, technology that I fear will return to haunt the Imperium in years to come. I am not long for this life. The pistol sits beside me as I record this. I can only hope that those who find this log will not hate us for what we tried to do here. Okay, any thoughts?
I think I too would be deep-throating the nearest fucking rifle if I came across a mutant abomination that had psychic powers, summoned a horrifying man. Honestly, love his swagger.
Most Space Marines are to some degree kinda psychic. They're not like all of them are psychics, but
low-level psychic energy.
Yeah, because I think to a degree all of the Primarchs are psychics. Like, Guilliman's obviously not going out here doing fucking psychic shit. He's not fucking Magnus or Sanguinius or
Rest in
like
peace.
Magnus is like really the only one that's really like from memory actively doing psychic shit. But like Sanguinius and I'll remember his name.
Magnus.
I won't remember his name. Conrad Kurz, I got there.
I was gonna guess Simon.
Like they can both see the future, which is a psychic trait, but they're not like doing wizardry shit like Magnus. I might be wrong
because if they did, they would have survived.
But from memory, all the Space Marines are not Space Marines. Sorry, all the Primarchs are to some degree psychers, which means all the Space Marines to some degree are psychers. But some of them are like obviously psychers where they're just like, boo, can do magic shit, while others are just kind of like somewhat resistant to psycho shit.
You get cool magic powers or very slight immunity.
I could be wrong on that. I could just be spreading misinformation. It happens.
Yeah. We all have to spread it sometimes.
So we flash back to when the AdMech, or I guess flash forward, back to the beginning of the story, which was actually in the future. Back to when the AdMech have discovered this place.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, rediscovered this place. They successfully revived the remaining Space Marine thing.
Uh-oh.
They were so happy about this discovery, and they thought it would be one of the most significant discoveries in the past 3,000 years. and that they are going to learn so much from this. Now, Brother Laquaria warned them not to transmit anything off-world or to communicate any of their findings, but they thought, hey, fuck Adeptus to Terra, this is too important. We don't need to worry about your claims to this place. We need a full AdMech team to excavate and study this place. So they submitted a report, and after that, they never submitted another report.
Because they all died horribly.
So, in 999, M41, a year-ish. Time's weird. It does say a couple years ago, but then it's like 1 year in M49, but time is made up. The year M41 isn't really like the year M41 because of warp shit. No one actually really knows what year it is. They just kind of wing it.
M just means the mean, as in the average. An average estimate.
M means millennia.
Yeah, but I'm
right.
making... Yeah.
You're making a joke?
It's not a good one. It never is.
Evidently.
I hate this job.
So, in 999 M41, the Inquisition intercepted AdMech telepathic communications that contain these logs and decided they needed to burn this place to the ground.
Good.
Like, the Inquisition sent Grey Knights for this. That's how big of a deal they're treating this.
And the Grey Knights, remind me?
They are, they're exclusively Psychers. They're Space Marines who are exclusively Psychers, and they are pretty much exclusively sent to deal with demon shit and chaos shit, and
the cleanup crew.
Like in a battle, right? So there's not a lot of Space Marines. Most battles in 40k, if you see Space Marines, first of all, that's awesome. You saw Space Marines. They're the Emperor's Angels. But it also means this is a really bad situation. You saw Space Marines.
Yay, Space Marines!
They don't show
Space
up
Marines.
unless things are really bad. If the Grey Knights show up, not only are they showing up at it, that means things are really, really, really bad. It also means you're not walking out of this alive. Because they're like, you saw chaos. You might be corrupted from chaos. We are going to kill these guys, and then we're going to kill everyone here.
Just to be safe.
So they do that. They're a fighting force that is designed specifically to fight chaos, and only chaos. And I remember, this is an aside, I remember reading a story where the Space Marines found a bunch of soul stones from Eldar, which is where Eldar souls go when they die. They're designed so that they go in soul stones rather than being eaten by Slaanesh. And the Grey Knights found a fuck ton of soul stones. So they went to an Eldar craft world and just like fucking kicked down the door. And they're like, motherfuckers! And like no one's there. And they just stand there waiting. And then the Eldar show up with a full force in tow. Like a full proper army to fight these Space Marines, because they're like, they fucking showed up on our craft world. This is bad. Like, this is an existential threat. We need to kill them. And like, as they're approaching, the Grey Knights are just like, fucking wait. And like, what? And like, here's your soul stones. And like, what the fuck? What? Huh? Why are you giving our soul stones back? What? And like, if you don't have these soul stones, Slaanesh eats it, and that power's Slaanesh, and we're fighting that motherfucker. Fucking peace, you elf Erebus. And then they leave.
Trust the enemy you know, rather than the enemy you know fucking super sucks.
They are willing to, quote unquote, work with aliens, specifically despite chaos. Even though working with aliens is a big no, they're like, look, aliens are chaos. And they're fighting chaos, we're fighting chaos. If helping them means that we fight chaos better, fuck it, we'll help them. Even if it's just giving them back their dead.
Yeah, the enemy of my enemy is my friend and all that.
Yeah.
Except the enemy, who is also my enemy, is still not as bad an enemy as my other enemy.
Also, I said Erebus there.
Which also got censored.
Yeah, I'm changing our censor bleep from just a bleep tone to me just saying Erebus. I thought it was really funny. So if you're hearing Erebus, I said the Australian word.
The friendship word.
Yeah. If you're wondering why I said a bunch of elf Erebuses, it's because I said Erebus.
Stop saying Erebus.
Yeah. I said unt. I don't have to censor that one. There's big enough space.
You know, you said country.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Grey Knight arrived, hoping to find some people to interrogate. And by interrogate, it means like, what the fuck do you know? And they go, this is what I know. And they're like, cool. And then they kill him. But there's nothing. They found nothing. They found the facility and there was no signs of life, no bodies, no evidence of an attack, just fucking barren, just fucking nothing. There was, however, residual warp trails, but they couldn't figure out the direction, so they just opted to do the reasonable thing. What do you think the reasonable thing is, Corgi?
Blow everything up.
Want to be a bit more specific on that one?
Blow everything up so that they can't use the warp tunnels back?
Nope. That's not how warp works. Kind of, but not really. They glassed the fucking place from orbit. And deleted every record of it ever existing.
They really like to do that.
Yeah. So
it's like, oh, can't use that name anymore. Can't use that planet anymore.
That about does it for the Cursed Founding. If you were wondering, Corgi, the Cursed Founding is called that because something fucky happened to every chapter founded.
Every chapter found there?
Yeah, founded during the Cursed Founding. Like, every chapter made during the Cursed Founding that we're aware of, something fucky happened. They had weird mutations, and most seemed to just generally have really bad luck. Unrelated to anything, but the words weird mutations on my notes were, for some reason, in a different font size. A different font and size, despite Word registering they were in fact the same font and size as everything else. And I had to click on the font to fix it and set it back to the font that it should be, but undo didn't put it back to the previous font. So I bring this up because it's fucking comical that weird mutation had a fucking weird mutation.
Oh, poetry.
So let's get on to in a very, very quick, the factions that, the chapters that didn't come up during Story Hour. Right? First, we got the Firehawks. Like most of the Cursed Founding chapters, they're known to have terrible luck. This will come up in the Lamenters episode. Their two homeworlds, the terrible luck thing, not the Firehawks, their two homeworlds were destroyed, and then they subsequently disappeared in the warp, never to be seen from again. They will, however, come up again in a different episode, because it might not be that simple. We got the Sons of Antaeus. No one knows what happened to them, but they are sturdy motherfuckers. They are about as tough as Death Guard, who are powered up by Nurgle.
Oh, jeez.
They're Chaos Space Marines who are powered up by Nurgle, and they are about as sturdy as they are. The wiki said that they had like metal bones, but then I looked at the actual source, and the source just says they're fucking sturdy. No one knows why. They are unnaturally resilient, and they are about as tough as Death Guard. So that's the official source. I don't know where the bones thing comes from. Might be mentioned off somewhere else, but the source, which is the compendium of characters, they're just fucking sturdy. Now, the Minotaurs, they will probably get their own episode. They cool. They got a Berserker Rage, maybe. Apparently, it almost never comes up in lore, but if you do play them on tabletop, they have it as a bonus ability, specifically tied to their being from the first Cursed Founding.
Mm-hmm.
Then, we got the Blood Gorgons. They turned traitor in 60 years of existing.
Sorry, so we've got Firehawks, Sons of Antaeus, and Gorgons.
And the Minotaurs.
Of course.
And we got the Lamenters. We'll talk about them next episode. And that about does it for factions, I think. I might have forgotten something. As I am writing this, it is 2 a.m. However, I do want to talk about one thing, throwing it to next day Che, which wasn't next day, because someone, not me, got food poisoning. And next day Che has slept. But next day Che slept, but the following Che didn't sleep. So, next day Che can put together a coherent thought. So, I briefly want to talk about the Thorian involvement, right?
Thorian involvement?
Yep, Thorian. Named after a guy called Thor.
Oh, gee, that's a shock.
Yep. So, the Lexicanum, which that being the wiki that's not shit, that lists it, well, it has less information, but it actually lists its sources, whereas the bottom just, the other wiki, which is a fandom wiki, which fandom sucks for its own reasons, but it lists its sources, but it doesn't actually tell you where the information came from the source. It's just like, hey, here's the sources. We're not going to tell you what bit of information came from what sources. It lists it talks about the Thorians being involved in the cursed founding, but it does not read that way in the actual source. It reads like they might have been involved in Brother Laquaria, not the founding. However, apparently Kresh's ties are explored in a different issue of White Dwarf, and I tried to look into it, and I just couldn't get it. I even looked at the fucking Warhammer Plus Vault, and you'd think, you got a fucking streaming service that you're selling like, oh, we got old books, you can access old books and old lore, and old White Dwarf. You'd have every White Dwarf up until like a year prior to the current year, but no, it starts at 2003, which was after when I needed. Fucking stupid.
Bastards.
So many people complain about the fucking streaming service and how it's not worth it, and I don't fucking buy it, so it doesn't affect me, but like, for once, I'm like, actually, I might get this because it might be useful for research, and they're like, fuck you. Get fucked. Thanks. Fucking stupid. Anyway, the exact quote to help give context, and keep in mind this message is from M41, which is 6,000 years after the cursed founding. Fellow Inquisitor, I contact you now with grave news. A matter has arisen on the world of Inculaba that may well threaten the delicate balance of the Imperium we strive to preserve. I have taken steps to remedy this situation, ordering a detachment of Grey Knights to the planet, but fear that events may have already progressed too far. I believe that our Thorian brothers in the Inquisition have once again attempted to make their will and heretical beliefs a reality. Only time will tell if I have acted in time.
And they clearly...
Well, so if this was talking about the cursed founding, this is like the equivalent of me, say, dropping a bomb on Cairo and then going, man, that Nama is out of line founding a kingdom on the Nile. I sure hope I stopped him in time, when I am in fact 5,000 years too late.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, because I was like, Namor?
Yeah, first emperor of Egypt. I had to fucking Google it. I was going to go with Ramesses, but Ramesses is like 3,000 years. Whereas Nama is the first emperor, pharaoh. 5,000 years. Which is 5,000 years still isn't right. It's 6,000 years ago. But the only way this line makes any sense is if they are in fact involved with Brother Laquara. And they don't know who he is. Wait, hold up. Did I say something?
Well, yes, you've been saying something all episode.
I think I forgot to give important information here. So the only way this line makes any sense if they are in fact involved with Brother Laquara, but then they don't know who he is, and maybe he is a space marine. Like it says, like one of the lines at the end is being like, we had all attempts to discover the true identity of Brother Laquara have failed. They don't know who he is. They don't know what he is. Maybe they know what he is. Maybe they know he's a fucking Inquisitor. We don't. It hasn't conveyed that information well enough.
Or maybe he really is just...
He uses a Space Marine title, but yeah. The best way to make sense of it is if that he is an Inquisitor and the Admech call him brother, or if he is an Admech, but for some reason they ignore his orders because they want to disregard Adeptus Terra. Like, I don't know. It was hard to understand. Maybe I missed something because, as I said, I was reading it late. But yeah, he might be a Space Marine. He uses Space Marine's titles, but is never established to be a Space Marine. It's never implied he's a Space Marine. It's implied there's a regular guy, which might be an Inquisitor. Maybe Inquisitors use brother because they say like Thorian brothers, but that's like because they're a different branch of the Inquisition, and not like. And brothers also is in quotation marks. I don't fucking know. But let's, for a minute, get into the speculative section. And let's just say the Thorians were involved in the cursed founding, which I cannot verify because I can't find the book that it is referencing, but let's say it is correct. We know the Thorians want to revive the Emperor by transferring his soul. This is where we get into the, as I said, the theory crafting of it all. We know they want to revive the Emperor by transferring his soul. We know that the cursed founding created Space Marines that were just straight up superior, like Proto-Primaris. And this was involved in Project Homo Sapiens Novus. Novus being Latin for new. So, Project New Man. like, they were attempting to create a new man. This already feels like the diner scene from Black Dynamite. Fucking...
Nope.
Yeah, so I gotta show you that film. It's fantastic. The Emperor is also called the New Man. He is the New Man. And we are also going to ignore for a moment Fabius Bile's New Man, because Fabius Bile also created New Men. But considering he is involved, we don't really need to. But his New Men are different to, like, the New Man being the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
The Thorians were trying to create a new Emperor and put his soul into its body. Like, there's no mystery there. If we're accepting that the Thorians were involved, the whole, we don't know why this happened or what caused it, apart from there was probably some tampering for some unknown reason, is bollocks. We know exactly what caused it and why. They tried to make a new Emperor, and it was starting to show promise until one of them turned to chaos and summoned Fabius Bile. Anyway, Anaconda Malt Liquor gives you Little Richard, and time to take the tinfoil hats off. I wrote alfoil.
Alfoil.
I wrote alfoil hats and autocorrect changed it to tinfoil. Fuck you. Time to take the alfoil hats off. Stupid. And, like, I've never heard any of this in, like, you know, lore videos or stuff. All of this information is on the shit wiki, the fandom wiki, so it's not like it's hidden information. It's not like I dug up some long forgotten book, but yeah.
Yeah, just in the archives, finding a dusty old tome.
But anyway, I cannot stress just how wildly this video verged. Like, as I said, this was supposed to be a Lamenter's video, and then, because of that, I had to explain the Cursed Founding. So I usually go about these videos is that I read the Codex or Battle Tome and write out the episode, and if I need extra information, I go to Lexicanum and do a read through of their stuff to find what I want, and then use its source that's listed. Then I get the source I can. Sometimes it's a dead link or page 63 of a Black Library book. And that's why I ended up reading Day of Ascension for the Gene Stealer cults, because it was listed as a source for like half of the fucking information there. So I'm like, I guess I gotta read this fucking book.
And it turns out the book's actually really good.
Yes, it turns out the book was really good, and it was a really good idea, because that made that video very good.
Yeah, I'm still reading it.
Yeah, so I used the wiki and looked up the source, that being issue 260 of White Dwarf. And I started reading it, and I was like, what the fuck? They explain exactly what went on. Like, it was like in a movie when they discover a long-forgotten tome and explains the whole mystery. Like, fucking Fabius Bile shows up, and that's important. Like that feels like an important fact, is they were fucking with the gene seed to create the new man. And then Fabius Bile showed up and yoinked a guy. Yoinked the new man. Fabius Bile has that guy. Probably dead. But, like, he has that information now. He has that research.
And now we're all fucked.
Yeah, and he's doing his thing, creating new Space Marines in weird ways. And proto-Space Marines, and there are two characters who are in the process of just, like, actively creating new Space Marines. There's Belisarius Cawl, who's created the Primaris Marines, and they're currently very successful, but they're, like, getting better as time goes on, because, like, the process of converting firstborn Space Marines into Primaris is killing them less frequently than it used to. It used to be like, barely anyone survives this, and now it's like, everyone survives this.
Ooh.
Not everyone, but most people. And, you know, then there's Fabius Bile doing his weird shit. Just creating Space Marines, creating proto-Space Marines, and he's doing stuff.
A family, man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Don't judge him.
He also has 3 Primarchs. Technically he has 2, but, like, he's created perfect clones of 3 Primarchs, that being Horus, Ferrus Manus, and his Primarch. Fuck, what's his name? Turned into a snake. Man, I'm great on Primarch names.
Still better than me.
Yeah, well, you're not expected to know.
That's because I barely know anything.
Emperor's Children. To Google...
Sanguinius.
Nope.
No. He's the only one that ever matters to me.
He's basically the inverse of Sanguinius. He's also beautiful. He turned into a snake. Emperor's Children... Fulgrim. I remembered it just before I scrolled in, which is always how it works. Yeah. But, yeah, so Fulgrim, he created a perfect clone of Fulgrim, and then he traded it to Trays in the Infinite for a bunch of gene seeds. So now Trays in the Infinite owns Fulgrim. Trays in the Infinite is a Necron.
Oh, fuck. And nothing could go wrong.
And like, this is not Chaos Corrupted Fulgrim. It's a perfectly not Chaos Corrupted Fulgrim that he just created. And now
It's just Fulgrim.
Trazen owns it, yeah. But anyway, there was kind of like a whole rant here that I cut because no one really wants to hear people go on rants about bullshit. But the point is that GW, make it easy to access old copies of White Dwarf. You fuck. You should have it for free, but if you're going to charge for it, make them all available, not just 2003 onwards. You fuck.
Yeah, why would they make it convenient for us? Haven't you forgotten how they've been treating fucking D&D?
Well, it's Wizards of the Coast, but you know.
Yeah, sort of. I thought Games Workshop and Wizards of the Coast were under the same subsidiary.
Nope.
Oh, what's the point?
Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, and Games Workshop is owned by Games Workshop.
Oh, my bad then.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is come to Good Morning Ratman to listen to a guy going about shit that doesn't matter. Now, if you like this video, hit like. If you know anyone who wants to know more about the Cursed Founding, send them this video. Let them know it explains everything. Mostly kind of, I don't know, some stuff. Be sure to comment. It feeds my brain the good juice, especially with this video. I would like to hear y'all's takes and all y'all's alfoil hat conspiracy theories.
Please stop trying to speak Southern.
I say y'all's all the time.
Y'all's just sounds weird coming from you.
No,
Y'all.
I say y'all all the time.
Maybe you
Usually
shouldn't.
it's what y'all motherfuckers doing, but you know.
Yeah, that one's normal, but it's when you say y'alls, when you plural it.
Y'all's.
Y'alls.
Anyway, I also feel like this will apply to no one, but if you play the game and run a cursed founding army, tell me about it. I do want to know. Because founding is fun, and learning more about it is fun.
I always forget this is an actual fucking game.
Yeah, people play this game. I used to play this game. Don't anymore.
I used to, and then I got better.
No, I used to, but I didn't have money because Catholic Church stole it all.
Leave them out of this.
And then I discovered Dawn of War, and I'm like, you mean I can play Warhammer and not have to spend $50 every single time I want a new unit? So then I just I got into Warhammer video games at that point. I'll tell that full story another time about the very long period of time I took a break from models and how I got back into collecting models and painting models. And at the end of the day, it's all Dawn of War's fault. Anyway, that's all for us this week.
And we will not be doing this late again because bless.
Yeah, someone, not me, shouldn't have food poisoning.
And someone else should cope better. Bitches.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, no. Next week's video will be Lamentus. Bye.
Bye. And it's strangely in character for Tasmania.
Yeah.
Is Tasmania basically like the Florida of Australia?
No, Tasmania's... It has a reputation of like the Alabama of Australia, but it's kind of well adjusted. I've been to Tasmania. It's really nice.
Kind of well adjusted?
Yeah, well, actually, some of its politicians are kind of cookers, but that's...
Yeah, one of my favourite fucking news headlines of all time was man and wife caught misusing trout.
Yeah, that was Tasmania. As I said, it's got a population of cookers, but Hobart, the capital city of Tasmania, as far as capital cities of Australia that I've been to, which is Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Canberra, and Hobart, Hobart's the best one by like a notable margin. No one lives there, but it's the best one by a notable margin.
Yeah, that's why it's so dang good. As someone who used to live close to Melbourne, but not in Melbourne, thank God. No. Just no. You can't breathe for shit.
Anyway.
Everything's too damn expensive.
Just getting some end of video content out of the way before we get into the video. I ruined tea for a woman the other day. Technically, I didn't like ruin the tea because she kind of liked it, but we were at a tea store and we were supposed to buy tea and leave. And then we spent 30 minutes talking to the cashier about different teas.
That's how
and
it always goes.
We left 3 different times.
Well,
We said
it was just
goodbye
one more.
3 different times and then went, and then continued talking. But they had like sample teas, and that was the second time we left, and then we saw the sample teas at the front, and then we drank the sample teas, and then we started talking to the woman about the sample teas again. And I had one, don't remember what it was, but I was just like, oh, I don't like this. It tastes like something, but I can't figure it out. And then like my wife and the cashier were talking again about the tea, and then I drank it again, and I'm like, it's Dr. Pepper. It tastes like Dr. Pepper.
Oh, God.
And she was like, how do you mean? I'm like, well, it tasted like cough syrup, and I was trying to figure out what it tastes like. It tastes like cough syrup. Dr. Pepper tastes like cough syrup. It tastes like Dr. Pepper. I hate Dr. Pepper. And then she drank it, and she was like, yeah, it does taste like Dr. Pepper. Well, it's not terrible. I don't hate Dr. Pepper, but I cannot drink this tea ever again without realizing it tastes like Dr. Pepper.
Oh, God. It must have been like a menthol blend or something.
I don't remember what it was. Fuck. It tasted like Dr. Pepper. Very hard to get Dr. Pepper in Australia, and good.
That thing should be banned.
I'd heard it like talked up from, like Yanks and shit. And Yanks is a term for Americans wondering what Yanks means. It's short for Yankee.
And yes, it is an insult. Sorry about that.
Pseudo insult. Usually if you want to go for like a proper insult, you say seppo, which is short for septic tank. But a big, fuck off American trucks, which we call utes in Australia, are called yank tanks, and that's not a positive term. That is used as an insult. It's always some Erebus driving a yank tank. But like from hearing all like from Americans, it's all about what's the like Dr. Pepper's so good, Dr. Pepper's so good, and like the first time I ever saw Dr. Pepper in the wild, which was hard to find to begin with, and then I was like, oh, I'll buy it and try it, and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever drunk. This is fucking terrible.
God, don't blame the Venetians. They're already in a lot of trouble.
Hey guys, we need to save Christianity by attacking the heathen Christians. Huh?
Did it work?
No. It did work.
Oh, fuck.
Pope being like, that, what? That doesn't make sense. And they go, hey, here's a lot of money. And they go, fuck, man. Those Christians in the Byzantine Empire, they're a threat to Christianity. We gotta fucking sort those guys out.
I mean, honestly, they would have worked on me. Hey, here's a bunch of money. You good? Yeah!
Yeah, granted, the Venetians are also the same guys that armed the Ottoman Empire with the cannons that they used to destroy the Byzantine Empire. They're not exactly a neutral party in this. They're not exactly acting at the best interests of Christianity. They're playing both sides, so they always come out on top.
Yeah, that tracks.
This is history sidetracks with Che.
Oh,
I actually really
sarcastic.
like Prometheus, but I was one of the few people that like went to watch Prometheus in theaters, and everyone was like, I came here for aliens. What the fuck is this AI shit? And I'm like, no. Let them cook. I want to know what's happening.
Yeah, well, AI was also a pretty big part of Alien 1.
Yeah, and then he followed it up with Alien Covenant, and everyone was like, oh, they brought back aliens. I'm like, no. They brought back David. Let him cook. What's he doing?
Let the Fazzy cook.
And then they're like, and we're not moving forward with Ridley Scott's Alien trilogy, quadrilogy, where he's talking about what if the creation discovered God and found that God was not worthy of its worship. And that
God had a stupid fucking space helmet.
Yeah. What if that happened? And everyone was like, oh, that's fine. He wasn't making alien movies anyway. And I'm like, yeah, he was making something interesting. And I wanted to see him cook.
Yeah, sometimes the weirdest things come from the greatest places. Yeah. Or whatever.
There's a hospital near me that, on a technicality, my family owns, but technically it's owned by the Catholic Church. It's founded by my family. Anyway.
I own a hospital, but the Catholic Church stole it from me. Thanks, America.
Every now and then my grandmother is just like, we could have been rich. We were one of the wealthiest families in Ireland. But then we just gave it all to the Catholic Church. And she is super Catholic, by the way. Like, she doesn't anymore, but she used to have, like, framed photos of every pope that was, like, alive when she was alive. So she had, she had Ratzinger. No, she had the one... not Ratzinger. She had, what's his name? And then John Paul II, then Ratzinger. And Francis was the Pope, but she hadn't printed out Francis yet. And she was like, I gotta print out Francis. I've been to her house since, and the popes are no longer there. So, but every now and then she's like, we could have been rich, but our family gave it all to the Catholic Church. Yeah, cool. just generations of growing up in poverty because one of my ancestors inherited an immense wealth, making them one of the wealthiest families in Ireland, and then went, what if we all gave it to Jesus? And the rest of the family doesn't have a say in this. I have a say in this. I'm going to give this all to Jesus. And found an entire nunnery. Thanks, Catherine, you fuck. Yeah, and you're not even a saint for it. You're just beified.
Moral of the story is churches don't need your tithes, and they don't need your property.
They need to give me my money back. I deserve royalties from every single hospital.
Yeah, imagine how that's going to go over in court.
Yeah.
No.
But
piss off.
Spider going shopping. He's got to buy some clothes.